All right, so previously we talked about you want to think about the parent function. So for cosine, the parent function graph looks like so. You have 1 and -1. It goes through 0, not goes through 0, but you have 0, and you're going to be using pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Okay, remember cosine is our cup, right? And our cup at 0 has a maximum at 1, right? At pi over 2, it's going to cross the x-axis. At pi, it has a minimum at -1. And at 3 pi over 2, it has an intersection. And at 2 pi, it has a maximum at 1. So it looks like, pretend that is all symmetrical and beautiful, okay? Use your imaginations. Use your imaginations. We've already discussed this, okay? All right. This is our parent function, right? So there are key things you need to pay attention to when you're looking at your parent function. Your maximums, your minimums, and your intercepts, yeah. Said that right? So currently right now, we start at 0, and our axis for our wave is the x-axis, right? Now, we're going to analyze the function, and things may change. So starting here, our A is 1, because there's nothing there, right? Our period is going to be 2 pi divided by our B. What is our B? 4. So our period is pi over 2. Okay? Our shift is our H, and our H value right here, X is a liar. It looks like I'm going left, but I'm actually going to the right. And we're going to the right, 5 pi over 6. And our vertical shift, there is nothing there. So did we shift? No. Okay? So,
the answer is 0?
No, 0. Same thing. Okay? What you want to start off with is acknowledging where do you start. So you want to look at, well, now my cycle is going to start at 5 pi over 6. Okay? So these are all counting by 6s. So 5 pi over 6 is just going to be 5 marks in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be 5 pi over 6. Okay? The next thing you want to look at is your period. Your period is saying that from 5 pi over 6, it's going to take me pi over 2 to make my phase. Okay? So pi over 2 in terms of this chart, since I'm counting by 6s, would be 3 6s. Does that make sense? Because 3 is half of 6, and if each mark is 1/6, then it's going to... No, I mean, tell me if you don't see why it's 1/6, then tell me. No. From here, from 0 to pi, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 marks. So each one of these is pi over 6. Okay?
Everyone is pi over 6.
Everyone is pi over 6. Got it? So we're counting by pi, 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi. Okay? So I need to be pi over 2. Well, in terms of our table, pi over 2 is 3 pi over 6, right? So that's how far from here I have to go. I have to go 3. I'm going to go 3 tabs over, and that's where my end's going to go. 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be a tiny little cup. Okay? It's going to be a tiny little cup. The next is your vertical shift. Your vertical shift didn't change. So your axis for your wave is still going to be on the x-axis. So that's going to be my axis for my wave is on the x-axis. So yesterday, I was making the dashed lines. Hopefully the highlighting kind of helps you see exactly where I'm at. So we have now dealt with all of this information. We've used our shift, and our period. The only thing that's left to deal with is our amp. Okay? Your amp is saying what's happening at your max and your min values. Okay? So looking at our cup function, at the cup function, we have a max here, a min here, and a max here. I used to start at 0, but now I start here. And at here, I need to have a maximum of my amp, and my amp is only 1. Since cosine is an even function, how it starts is also how it ends. So it's going to end here. Your minimum is halfway between. So your minimum is halfway between your two maximums. So halfway between this is right here. And you're going to have a minimum at -1 because your amp is 1 away from your axis. And then your intercepts.
Hey, Waco High.
Okay, so I put in my my intercepts on my axis. And so the intercepts are halfway between my max and my min. Halfway between my max and my min. I was going to show you that this just continues, right? So if this was to keep going, then my next wave would take place here. Essentially. Pretend that I did this fairly. Yeah. I'm not in the middle. Is that why you were asking me? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't in the middle. It looked like I was kind of in the middle.
No.
Guys, it's really hard to draw up here, and I've already expressed this to y'all. Yeah, and how did it go for y'all?
I did good.
Yeah, I got it.
Irrelevant.
Very good.
All right, so then it keeps going. So this is a shorter, smaller wave occurring. All right, so looking at this wave, what is the domain and range of it?
And then for the domain, and then the range is -1 to 1.
Perfect. Okay. So again, how do we feel? Okay. I'm glad you asked, because there's more coming. The last one you will, but we're going to do one more together, and then you're going to do the last one by yourself. Okay? All right, here we go. So we have sine this time. So remember the parent function for sine, that's our snake, right? 1 and -1, 0, and it's always going to be pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. This is what you should be thinking. If you don't have to write it out, don't write it out, okay? Now, one thing we have to pay attention to is what kind of sign do we have? Well, based on the fact that there's a negative here, what's happening to our sign? It is going to be negative, right? It's the negative sign parent, okay? And so it still is going to start at 0, but instead of starting with the maximum, I'm going to start with a minimum.
What's the point of doing this?
This right here is to just give you a reminder of what your shape should be. So this is like your thought process before you start. Okay, so notice we're now going to be a negative. Agree? So key thing about our function right now, again, I have 3 intercepts. I keep saying interceptions. I have a min and a max, and they're all equally spaced. Does that make sense? It's all going to stay symmetrical. All right, looking at our graph here, I mean our function here, what is our amp? 3. Oh. My pen, it's doing it. It is. There we go. 3. Your period is going to be 2 pi divided by your b. When you're dividing by a fraction, you're doing what? Multiplying by the reciprocal. Keep, change, flip. So what are we left with? 4. Okay. Your shift, our x's are liars. So we're actually going to the right. 3/2. And our vertical shift is a +1. So we're going to be going up 1. So we're now going to create our starting and our axis for our wave. Okay. So we're starting at 1.5. Agreed? So we start here at 1.5. At 1.5, it's going to take us 4 units to complete our cycle. So 1.5 plus 4 puts us where? 5.5. So we're going to end at 5.5. Our period tells us. Okay. Then our vertical shift is going to tell us where our axis wave is going to be. And it's going to be up 1. So it's no longer on the x-axis. It's right here. So this is what our amplitude is going to be based off of. Okay, so we know that we start at the intersection of our axis wave and our starting point, right? That's our, and we're going to also, we end that way. In the middle, we have another intersection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in the middle is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. My intersections are done. Now I'm going to put in my min and my max. My min is halfway between my first 2 intersections. So that's going to put me at 1, 2, 3, 2.5, 2.5. And my amplitude tells me how big or how long my min is. How long is it going to be?
3.
It's going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'm here. My max is halfway between my other 2 intersections. It's going to be here. And I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. And here is my sine wave. Whatever. All right. Yes, no?
Yeah.
Was it terrible?
Yeah, it was as bad as yesterday. Yesterday was confusing.
Okay. All right, here we go.